So you'll notice that by having this, you're able to, you can just go without having to step over a fashion piece, which you avoid a trip hazard. Even our 23, our little boat, even our 23 has a little flat spot. Why? Because it's very important. Right, this gives you the equivalent of a side door. Your side door is right here. Now, here at the show, I purposely, on both of these boats, I located the boarding steps on the opposite side of the transom door. I did that on purpose. It would have been very easy to put it here and put it there, but I did that for the simple reason that I wanted to showcase that our transom is fully flat. There's no splash wall. You actually have a clean splash wall. You can walk without tripping. Why? Because modern engines are designed to tilt here. The hardware stays in place, so there's no reason to bury hardware into the deck. And therefore, it's a clean splash wall. That affords you extra real estate. That allows you to tie, run over, tie on the other side, gaff a fish. If you're coming to service your engine, you're not stepping in a well. You have a perfectly flat surface. The latch, positive closing latch. Wow. You're not going to blow it into the. You're not going to blow it in with this latch. And as you step in, you're going to notice. People have asked me, why is the latch on the outside? If I'm fighting a fish, I don't want a latch in my knees. I want to have the latch in the proper place on the outside where it's easily accessible, positive locking, and out of my way. The next thing,
especially when you're jumping around out there.
Absolutely. Yeah, having the, I mean, this is one of the most important parts of the boat. Everybody jumps right in and says, wow, it's so pretty, but there's function. I try to do everything that's thought out for safety, reliability, and performance. So now as you come into the boat, welcome aboard. As you come into the boat, you're going to realize that this boat does not have water channels. The decks are perfectly flat. And the water channels, most everybody in this class of boat uses water channels to direct the water from the hatches into water troughs that eventually go to the scuppers. And you might ask, well, are you just dumping the water into your hatches? The answer is no. What we do is we plumb inside of our deck. That's not under the deck, that's actually inside the deck. We plumb the decks and we allow the water to flow through the troughs into the scuppers and go overboard by plumbing inside the deck. And people might ask, well, what if something gets clogged? The holes are smaller than the diameter of the pipe, so if it makes it through this hole, it makes it out the scupper. So they're not going to clog. While we have this open, you're going to notice that the hatches are finished inside and out, even the edges. And you might say, well, that's aesthetically pleasing. You went for looks. No, I went for safety. Because if this is routed and I'm in here in C's trying to do something and I hit that, like on a contender, I won't mention any names, you'll get cut. So we do it where it's fully finished radius for safety. And looks happens to be the byproduct. The hatches are gasketed, strutted with stainless steel, gem stainless steel hardware. The bilge is 100% finished. All of our bilge compartments are fully lined. You don't see raw gel coat. We have
very nice to clean.
Very easy to clean. We have a system to drain our fish boxes that instead of having to change macerator pumps all the time, what you have is a filtration system. You can open your fish box and run the water out with this pump, and then you throw your fish scales out at the end of the day. You don't have to change a macerator pump every 6 to 8 months. And it's all very manageable. Everything's very easy to get to. It's a very clean bilge, and all of our internal compartments are that way. This can be plumbed as a bait well or in deck storage.
And all of them, they have the...
Everything. Every hatch in the boat is plumbed inside the deck so that you don't shed any water into the bilges.
It'll stay completely dry.
Yep. Even our fish boxes, these are 50-gallon insulated fish boxes. They're insulated all the way to the boat bottom. Again, we have the plumbing, all of the same finishes. And then we pay attention to certain things. In this class of boat, many people are now doing aft bench seats, looking at so that if you're trolling, you can watch your lines. Everybody makes the seat parallel to the deck. If you notice, my seat has back pitch. The reason I did that is because most of the time the boats are running at 3 to 4 degrees, nose up. So if you were sitting on a seat, it would be trying to slide you off. If you sit down for a second, you're going to notice that it tends to drop you back in, and you don't feel like you're trying to slide off.
When the boat is going, you're actually straight.
Exactly. It actually keeps you from falling off the boat. Just a simple detail, but it's a detail that makes sense and works. And it's safer. It keeps you, even if you've had a drink or two, it keeps you off the deck of the boat. Then, another thing you'll notice, many boats that have bench seats like this, they have a gap here to allow relief to open the cushion to access the cooler below. And what I've done is I make it open this way so that we can get a full closure. You have additional storage here for miscellaneous things, fish pliers, etc. I have another pet peeve. I don't like snaps on boats because they rust and they corrode. It's very difficult to get things to stay. So we have access to our tackle center, but the cushion doesn't snap on. It's got 25-pound magnets that keep the cushion secure, and you have no Velcro, no snaps. It keeps the cushion in place, makes it very easy. Little details. As you come forward, and because we're a custom builder, this boat belongs to a customer. This boat has been delivered now for about 8 months, so it's got some time and some use. The customer for this boat is not real tall, so we added a pad. I gave him the option. We have an option where we have a little platform that folds out of the leaning post that adds height, but he did not want to give up his speakers, so we added a little cushion so that he wouldn't lose sight of the bow. This was done on purpose. The console tapers downward so that so you don't lose your bow, because even here you can see your bow. This has 4 degrees of down pitch, so no matter what the bow does, this is going to follow with you. You're not going to lose sight of your bow when you.
On my previous boat, that was a nightmare, because ever since I go full throttle to go on a plane, I won't be able to see who's in front of me.
Yeah. So
especially the jet skis and everybody else. This boat. And this one you could actually see all the way through without any problem.
Without any problem. And that's a feature of design. It's stylish, but that wasn't my goal. My goal was to do safety, to give you good visibility. So, and then people say, well, but by tapering the console down, you must have given up height inside the console. Well, the console is 6'4" of headroom inside the console. It's a wet head. It has a shower. It has a sink. It has access to all of your electronics. It's a very comfortable, large console on the inside, so we gave up very little. Another issue of mine is that I don't like to pull up to a fuel dock and cross the hoses. We have 3 tanks on this boat. So what I did is I provided fills on both sides, so no matter how you pull up to your dock, or if you're towing it with your truck, you don't have to go do spins to get to your tank. Or throw the hose over. You just fill all 3 tanks from that side, or fill all 3 tanks from this side.
Wow, this is really convenient. I know what that is.
It's practical.
I know what throwing overboard the hose and get to the other side, and the family in the boat.
Yes.
It's very uncomfortable.
Yes. The other thing that we did is everybody gives you a footrest for when you're sitting up, but I gave a footrest at deck level so that you can unload your back when you're leaning on the leaning post. You have a place to tuck your feet. And with John's, it's a little bit more uncomfortable in this sense because we have the thick mat, but under most circumstances, the mats are level and you have a very comfortable place to unload your knees when you're running and standing. And again,
this feels good when you're out there,
Yep.
your body is not taking a beat or anything.
Correct. Absolutely. Absolutely. We can configure the consoles custom for the customer as far as electronics, placement of electronics. You know, I've done them with center helm. It's according to what you prefer, what your preferences are. This was done, this type of finish is done, it's like a bed liner type material. It's a polyurethane base. Even with wet hands, it grips very well. It's not a powder coating, so it doesn't go into an oven. If you were to damage it, it could be touched up. Because it's a two-part epoxy-based product, it hardens without having to go into an oven, and you could always touch it up if you were to damage it, which is a disadvantage of powder coating, because once it's been in the oven, you can no longer put it back in the oven. You have to de-rig the entire boat. So with powder coating, all you can do is put little dabs of paint over your...
And that's it.
Yeah, that's all you can do.
Especially when you have your hands full of fish, you need to grab on.
You need to grab on. This is going to grip you.
It's going to grip.
Yeah, it's going to grip you. So it's something that's become very popular. I think I've had pretty much everybody order it the last probably 6 or 7 boats. It's just become, for us, it's almost become the standard.
I see one safety after the other, one convenience after the other. It's extremely nice.
And then it doesn't end there. There are other things that we do. For example, as you walk forward, this, you know, you see in a lot of boats, you see little windows in the deck where you have to access, if you needed to access your sending unit or your hoses. We actually share this little compartment. If you were to remove these screws, you actually have all your fuel lines pass through here. You have your sending unit to this tank. You have the same thing on the other side. So you have full accessibility, and it's not in the way, and you still have a finish line compartment for storage, additional storage, and again with the same thing, the deck drains, all of our, all of the tenants that we do. So accessibility for service is very important for us. We don't believe in having to change a pump or a valve through a little hole this big. You know, we make full access to everything on the boat.
Let me tell you, most boats are impossible to service them when it comes to the time of servicing an item. They don't have the space, and it's incredible how you have that one set up back there on both sides.
This one is 8 feet long, this compartment. So if you wanted to put a rod rack here, you would be able to set your rods here long ways, and you could close this compartment, and you could put 4 or 5 rods on each side and lock them. So if you're in the islands, you could lock your rods into the deck. The console I didn't show you as we walked by, but the console has lots of storage and lots of access, and there's access to every wire, every breaker, etc.
Oh, everything is here.
Yeah, and even this panel has, the whole panel comes out so that you have access to everything behind the panel. The panel's not permanently fused to that, so the whole panel comes forward, frame and all, and you can access everything.
Everything's here.
Everything.
Wow.
You can actually touch them and work with them.
Wow, extremely.
One of the most unique things about the boat when we talk about safety and reliability is most people concentrate on the knickknacks that people see. I concentrate on a lot of the things that you don't see but that make a boat safer, more reliable, more rigid, etc. And if you don't mind taking a knee and looking under here at our hull and deck joint, this is a 3-piece construction boat. So that means that the deck and the cap have to meet up near where the hull ends. So in most boats that are three-piece construction, you have the outer hull, you have the inner liner or deck, and then you have a cap that sits on top. And there's usually an open gap there, and that's where you see the screws, or you see lamination, or you see putty. What I've done is, I have a background in construction, and the strongest roofs, for example, are standing seam metal roofs. And standing seam metal roofs, the joints get rolled over like this, and they become they become very, very strong. So I brought that over. When I designed this deck, the deck doesn't end right here. This deck actually goes up, and what it does is it rolls over. It rolls over and basically does this, and that's the part you can't see because, and you don't see the hardware, because what this deck does is it actually comes up. The deck actually comes up and goes like this. So this is the deck. It goes up to the gunnel, comes down and meets the hull, and then the cap meets all three, and we methacrylate cement that, and we screw it. And the screws wind up inside the box beam, so you don't see the screws. You don't even need screws after you do a methacrylate joint, but you have to hold it till it dries. So we leave the screws, and then all the rub rail screws go in there. So it becomes the strongest hull and deck joint in the industry. And it's also the most finished, because nobody has thought enough to design their tooling to do that, so they wind up with a raw edge, unfinished. Some people just leave it, some people try to cover it with raw glass. I won't mention any names, Contender. As you go down and you look, you'll notice that you have that situation where it's raw glass under there. Again, safety.
All over.
If you notice,
So you could actually grip.
oh yeah, all of it. Now, if you notice your feet, you're not kicking the edges of the seat. There's toe kick all the way around. There's toe kick around the console. So if you got to run up to 10 to an anchor or to grab a dock line, you're not going to smack your feet on the edges of the seat. That requires a three-piece mold, because we have to do a mold. You can't take a piece like this out of a mold, so we have to do a separate piece. To do the bottom half of the seat is a separate mold. So it's a lot more labor intensive, but the net result is that I can get as close as I need to get and never bust my toe. So that's the net result. Again, little things that people don't typically think of. They think of ease.
Usually that's where you bring your toe out there, moving all around and
Absolutely.
trying to get your fish and
yeah. So another thing that I did when I set out to design seats that were both usable for somebody that's going to cruise with their family or fish, because we obviously offer this boat without the seats. The seats are modular. They're not part of the mold. They're actually put on, but everything is reversed flange, so you don't see any attachment points. But if you notice, the seats do not go all the way to the bow. And the reason I did that was so that you could come here and work a piling, work a line, work your anchor, work a fish. So if you run the seats all the way up, or if you put the U up front, now you have to stand to tend to your anchor or tend to the dock. So it becomes unsafe because you no longer have the protection of a gunnel. You're now standing on the seat. So it was purposefully stopped and allowed us a place for people to come in.
my previous boat I had to
And now you're below the knee, and that makes you unsafe. So you can actually work the edge. So that is something that, again, safety, and sometimes the safety leads you right into function. And so for us, again, that was done for safety, but it leads to function. And
the fish box.
the fish box here is a not 260 quart, but 260 gallon. This particular boat is equipped with a bow thruster. They don't typically come with a bow thruster, but this customer wanted it. This box goes all the way to the forward bulkhead, past your feet. It has the molded in cutouts for 5-gallon buckets. So you could stand your buckets in here with extra line, whatever it is, your cast nets, etc. and you don't have to worry about them sliding around and banging around inside
Sometimes
there.
you got your chum,
Yep.
have it in your bucket,
You can put it in
have
your bucket.
it there,
Yep.
and it stays there.
Absolutely. We can, another configuration that we offer for these is the big coffin box without these seats. You can put the coffin box, it'll have a hydraulic lift system so you don't lose the box below. You can just push a button right here. The whole box lifts up. You can store stuff under there, and then you have a 110-gallon coffin box above. This can be plumbed as a live well or as tank storage, or there's another 55-gallon live well in deck, or it could just be deck storage or a cooler. They're insulated.
What's the water gallon capacity?
Carries 40 gallons of fresh water, 15 gallons of black water, 400 gallons of fuel. She weighs about 14,000 and change, full of fuel.
Full of fuel.
Yep, full of fuel and water. It's not a light boat. She gets 1.1 mile per gallon at 52, 53 miles per hour. It gets 1.75 miles per gallon at 40 miles per hour. So it's a very, very efficient boat.
It's big, heavy, and
Efficient.
very efficient.
Good job, Donna. All right.